A little over 540 million years ago, some mysterious event sparked the most intense flash of creation in Earth's history. It's an event so dramatic, so profound, it even stumped Charles Darwin. In what is just a blink of an eye in geological time, our planet went from being populated by simple, soft-bodied oddities to a world teeming with complex animals. This was the Cambrian explosion, a biological Big Bang that furiously designed the ancestors of everything from the tiniest insect to the biggest whale. So, what lit the fuse on this evolutionary powder keg? Picture Earth's entire 4.5 billion-year history squeezed into a single 24-hour day. For the first 21 hours, there's nothing you'd recognize as an animal, just a quiet microbial world. Then, in less than 5 minutes of that day, almost every animal blueprint that has ever existed pops into being seemingly out of nowhere. This isn't just a cool thought experiment, it's what actually happened on our planet. For billions of years, life was, well, simple. The oceans were ruled by single-celled organisms. Then, around 575 million years ago, something started to stir. In the quiet depths, the first large multicellular organisms appeared. Known as the Ediacara and Biota, these life forms were unlike anything alive today. Some looked like quilted air mattresses, others like strange, frond-like plants stuck to the seafloor. Creatures like Dickinsonia could grow up to 1.4 meters long but had no mouth or gut, likely just absorbing nutrients right through their bodies. These were life's first bizarre experiments with getting bigger and weirder. It was a world of silent, squishy creatures, a critical stepping stone for sure, but they weren't yet the animals we know. The stage was set, but the main actors hadn't shown up yet. The world before the Cambrian was just the prologue. The story of animal life was about to begin with a bang. Then around 541 million years ago, everything changed. Over a period of just 10 to 25 million years, the fossil record does a complete 180. This period, the Cambrian explosion, marks the sudden appearance of nearly all the major animal groups or phyla that we see today. Before this, the fossil record was spotty. Suddenly it's packed with animals that have hard parts, shells, spines, and exoskeletons. These features fossilize way better than soft tissue, giving us a much clearer window into the past. And this is where we meet the stars of the show. From fossil sites like the incredible Burgess Shale in Canada, paleontologists have unearthed a treasure trove of bizarre and wonderful creatures. There's the formidable Anomalocaris, a meter-long swimming predator with grasping appendages and a circular mouth, perfect for crushing prey. We find the first trilobites, those armored arthropods that would scuttle across the seafloor for millions of years. And then there are creatures so strange they seem to defy all logic. Take the five-eyed Opabinia with its frontal nozzle, or the perfectly named Hallucigenia, a spiked worm-like creature that was so alien scientists first put it together upside down and backwards. What's truly mind-boggling is that the fundamental body plans cooked up during this brief window have defined animal life ever since. Bilateral symmetry, a body with a left and a right side, segmentation, and appendages all burst onto the scene. These weren't just new species, they were entirely new ways of being an animal, and they showed up with a speed that has puzzled scientists for centuries. So what caused this insane burst of evolution? For decades, scientists have treated it like a planetary whodunit, trying to pin down the trigger. The investigation now points to a cascade of connected events, not a single smoking gun. The first and oldest suspect is oxygen. For a long time, the leading theory was that a huge surge of oxygen into the atmosphere and oceans fueled the evolution of larger, more energetic animals. But incredibly detailed research published in 2024 has tweaked this idea. An international team of scientists looked at geological data from all over the world and found the trigger might have been just a small increase in oxygen, much less than we thought. This small bump in oxygen happened mostly in the shallow seas where these new animals were living. It seems it didn't take a flood of oxygen to open the evolutionary floodgates, just enough to cross a critical threshold that allowed for more active lifestyles. The deep oceans, meanwhile, stayed oxygen poor for another 140 million years. But oxygen didn't act alone. The second big factor was a dramatic shift in the planet's ecology, the invention of predation. The appearance of hunters like Anomalocaris created a terrifying new pressure. For the first time, being soft and just sitting there was a death sentence. This kicked off an evolutionary arms race. Prey evolved hard shells and sharp spines for defense. Predators in turn got better eyes, grabbing claws and sharper senses to hunt. This back and forth accelerated evolution, rewarding anything new and punishing anyone who stood still. The third suspect is hiding deep within the animals themselves: a genetic revolution. The basic toolkit for building an animal body, genes that control things like symmetry and where appendages go, like the famous Hox genes, was already in place from earlier ancestors. But during the Cambrian, this genetic toolkit was put to work in an explosive new way. Gene duplication created spare copies of important genes, which let them mutate and try out new functions without breaking the essential stuff. It was a time of wild genetic experimentation where tiny tweaks to developmental genes could lead to massive changes in the final animal. A final piece of the puzzle might be geological. Sea levels rose during the early Cambrian, creating huge new shallow sea habitats. This expansion of the habitable seafloor opened up tons of new ecological real estate, giving life the physical space it needed to spread out and diversify. The Cambrian explosion wasn't a single event, but a perfect storm of environmental, ecological, and genetic factors. A little more oxygen provided the fuel, the rise of predators created the motive, and a flexible genetic toolkit provided the means. Together, these forces lit a fire, a chain reaction where every innovation sparked the next. It's important to remember that the explosion wasn't instantaneous. It was preceded by millions of years of quieter evolution among the soft-bodied Ediacaran creatures, some of which even survived into the Cambrian. Research shows the transition was more of a gradual handover than a hard reset. The Ediacarans pioneered things like moving around and sexual reproduction, which the Cambrian animals then built upon. They were the trailblazers who set the stage for the biological revolution to come. This new world was a completely different place. The quiet, passive seafloor of the Ediacaran period was transformed into a dynamic and dangerous arena. Animals burrowed into the sediment, swam through the water and actively hunted each other, creating the very first complex marine ecosystems. The evolutionary rulebook wasn't just rewritten, it was thrown out, and a new, much more complex one was drafted in its place. The Cambrian explosion is one of the most important chapters in the story of life, and new discoveries are constantly changing what we think we know. We now know that the odd taco-shaped arthropod Odoria may have used its legs like a fishing net to catch prey while swimming upside down. An analysis of the last meals of Ediacaran creatures has confirmed that some, like Kimberella, had a mouth and gut and scraped algae off the seafloor, while others just absorbed food through their bodies. If you find these journeys into deep time as fascinating as we do, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the mysteries of our planet's past. The legacy of this 10 million year explosion is all around us and even inside us. The basic body plans forged in the fires of the Cambrian seas, like the chordate body plan of a creature called Pikaia, one of our own distant relatives, gave rise to fish, amphibians, reptiles, dinosaurs, birds, and eventually, us. While many of the Cambrians' weird creations were evolutionary dead ends, the survivors went on to populate the entire planet. The world was remade in that geological moment. It was a planetary-scale singularity, a point of no return that unleashed the complexity and diversity that defines animal life today. It proves that evolution isn't always slow and gradual. Sometimes, when the conditions are just right, it's a creative firestorm, an explosion of possibility that can give birth to an entire kingdom of life in the blink of an eye. The world we know was born in that fire.